Hey guys, Editing Joker here, and before we get to whatever video I put this in front of, I just want to remind you guys that we are doing another cash prize giveaway for the 2-year anniversary that is coming up. So the link to the Google form that you can fill out will be in the video description. It will be guess all of the units that are coming out for the 2-year Annie between like the free-to-play and summonable protectors, and then the free-to-play and summonable battle units. The instructions will be on the form. The cash prize right now is up to $500, and all you need to do is guess a few characters' names and what their typings will be. So it's fairly simple, but try and do it, right? Because it's free money, right? So be sure to put your answers in the form that's in the description. Have fun with it. And then once the anniversary is, mostly done, we know all the units, I will reach out to whoever wins. There are some other questions on the form as well that you have to answer in order for me to, pay you and contact you. But hey, this is supposed to be fun, right? I like to do these giveaways. I like to reward, my subscribers for, still being here and still playing the game 2 years in. So yeah, let's have some fun, guys. Link in the video description, but let's get on with, like I said, whatever video I put this in front of. Bye, guys. Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And it is time to rank the new Otherworld Legend units. A meta that, when first announced was kind of like, huh, that's interesting. And then it turned out to be, huh, that's really fucking broken. At least half of the meta is. So we are gonna, very correctively and objectively rank all of the units. I think we'll start with the free-to-play battle unit option, Yom. He is actually a really, really, really good unit. He is an orb changer into a green team, so that's good. But the fact that he is one of only a few units, and definitely free, that can actually apply Vengeance, I think actually puts him up into S tier. Because as I have proven this entire month, Vengeance will kill anything. If you have Velzard and Yom, that's pretty much all you need. If you just have Yom and you have Albus, you can actually make short work of a lot of content. And if you have, Raphael, then everything just becomes a cakewalk at that point. But Yom being a free-to-play option with the Vengeance mechanic, I think automatically puts him up in S tier, because even 3, 6, 9 stacks of Vengeance will clear 90% of content, right? Until we get to, like, the Inferno stages or something. And then you're talking about, I need actual teams for that. But that's just how good Vengeance is, and the fact that he's an orb changer on top of that is really good. I think my only downside to him is that I wish his orb change wasn't just focused on ult gauge gain. I wish it was extra gauge for everything, so extra protection and skill points. I think that would have been a little bit better on his skill, but other than that, I don't really have any complaints about him. So I think he's a very, very solid top tier option for every player to have. Moving on to the protectors, we'll start with Albus. I literally just got done with her showcase. That way I could actually get a feel for her and see how well she runs. And, being a 4-star protector unit, you can only expect so much out of them before they obviously get replaced by their top tier summonable unit. But I still think Albus being able to have Vengeance counterattacks, and even for one turn, like, if you know that a big AoE or a lot of attacks are coming, you can get a lot of easy Vengeance stacks just by having that up for one turn. And no, she doesn't reset skill costs. Very unfortunate. But that's something I would expect out of a premium unit, which is what Velzard does. So I think that Albus by herself is able to clear most early game content. Like, her and Yom together should clear almost everything up to, like, the hard-tempered edges. Right? As long as you have a solid orb-changing team built or something like that. So I'm actually going to put her up into C tier. I think that's fair. And you know what? I could actually hear an argument for moving her up into B tier, again, because Vengeance counterattack is so strong. So I'm going to put her in C for now, and then next month I'll see how I feel about it. Because I think she's better than this Rimuru and Shuna, because, sometimes you can't stack, right? You just can't. And sometimes Vengeance will kill everything. And by sometimes, I mean every time. So actually, you know what? I'm going to put her up in a B tier for now. And then I'll drop her down, you know, next month if I really feel like it. But I think she's that good. I think she's better than Gabiru. Like, 100%. So that might just be my bias, because I really don't like Gabiru. But I think she's good, especially for being a free-to-play option. Now, is she as good as, you know, Shizu and Cabby and Chloe? Debatable, but again, if you could have Albus on a blue team or an orange team, the Vengeance doesn't care. This is a green team, and if you're not running, if they nerf greens or they nerf Pierce, you can't bring Shizu. Again, yeah, Chloe, if they nerf greens, like, you're not bringing Chloe, right? You can bring Albus anywhere, so I think she's a B tier, and then Velzard is S tier. Like, there's no doubt. You know, Vengeance counterattacks for 3 turns, resetting skill costs across the board. Like, that is such a powerful ability by itself. Resetting skill costs, not just for your front 3 units, but your back line as well, is huge. And then giving that massive skill point buff on greens, it just makes Velzard easily top tier. Because, yeah, with her, she can just murder everything. And it's not even funny. Like, it's just kind of sad how you kind of take this meta back and clear every single hard stage up until this point. Like, if we had all the EX challenge quests and everything, then they'd all die. They would just all die. So, easily S tier. I would say easily better than Toa and Velzard. Rimuru, maybe. He's quite generic, though. It's gonna get real top-heavy here, but I definitely think that Velzard deserves the place up top. So, let's move on to the battle units. Very, very easy to place Raphael. You're going all the way up. You're going up into Godly, and it's not even funny how objectively dumb this unit makes the entire rest of the game. Like, I might change this to, you know, I don't know. Like, do you belong up here? Probably, kinda. You know, you're giving guard while vengeance stacking. You're sealing attack, crit, and pierce while giving elemental resistance up across the board. I mean, this single unit will save you from everything almost, unless they're doing like type damage, right? Light attack buffs, dark attack buffs, that kind of thing. Magic attack buffs, physical attack buffs. That's the only thing that he doesn't seal. But there are not a lot of stages that actually do that, and if you do, well, then you have all this extra defense anyways to, you know, tank it better. And this Vengeance meta has shown is that if you can live, you will kill everything. It may not be turn 3. In fact, it won't be turn 3. It may not be turn 6. But it'll be turn 10, and you'll be doing 400k on Vengeance every single turn across the board on an AoE. So you're doing, you know, over 1 million damage for free, and you're not really taking that much back because he's just so defensively oriented that it becomes just a joke. It's a turtle team, and turtles can be heavily annoying, and especially in like real-time strategy games like that, if you can't get past them, you can't win, right? The same rule applies here. If they can't kill you, you can't lose. And you will do passive damage. Like, their normal orb damage, who gives a fuck? Their alt damage, who gives a fuck? Alright? When I'm doing 500k every single turn, and it just consistently adds more and more and more and more, nothing will live. This unit will save you from literally everything. Even the hero stage. Even the hero who buffs herself to all hell. Just put Raphael on the back. Don't let him die. And then you'll never die after that. You won't actually lose the fight. You'll lose 3 units, sure, but you won't lose the entire, you know, match. So you know what? I think what do I rename this to? Triple S? Do I just flip these two and put triple S and then I'll make godly these two? I think I might do that. There we go. The tier list has been made. I don't have a double S, but we'll just do double S. Whatever. Fuck it. Godly. The masked hero now for her rewind ability, which has never been, doubled up in the game since, and she's still really good. She's got a really good trait. She's got a real good buff. And then we have Raphael, who will literally save you from anything. I think that's a fair judgment, and I really am not hearing arguments on that. So deal with it. And now we come to the controversy. We have Furry, Shuna, and Veldora. And we have to look at them in both lights, right? It wouldn't be fair to only put them on one team and be like, they suck. Or we put them on another team and be like, they're really good. We have to look at the whole picture. The whole picture of Raphael is that you put him anywhere and he's pretty much going to save your ass. Shuna is a damaging unit, right? She's built to be a DPS. Not initially, but if you stack her with a lot of defense, you give her like Maid Rimuru, or some other defensive-oriented unit, give her a really high defensive stat, and then use her stat swap, plus that 50% wind attack buff, and she's rushing her own ult, she is a good damaging unit. I don't think she fits very well on the meta alongside a bunch of defensive characters like Yom and Raphael, but she still does have Vengeance, and she is a competent damaging unit. And if you put her in a damaging scenario, she will do a lot for you. She has the potential to do a lot of damage because of how high her attack stat will go when you stat swap her. So, bad on her own team, in my own opinion. Good as a damaging unit on a different team. I think would warrant her being at an A tier. Alright? If she synergized better with her own meta, she would be S tier. But I think she's a solid A. Like, if there was like a percentage scale of A, she'd be like an 8 on the A scale, and 10 would be now you're going into S, if that makes any fucking sense. I think she can work. She can work. And then Veldora. Veldora, the support unit. Where is the Veldora? We'll look at Veldora. So, he is a support and a sub DPS. He gives weakness strike to 2 categories, which is unfortunate because Shizu, this Shizu, gives weakness strike to everybody regardless, but it's not as much, right? This is an 80% weakness strike buff, and he seals defense, which right now actually that's totally useless, right? There's no stage where sealing defense is necessary. I don't know why they gave it to him. Like, even the Orc stage, right? The rerun for Warrior's Mind. He does have defense for 7 turns, but if you're playing Warrior's Mind like you need it to, you're not nuking until turn 8, which is where he no longer has extra defense. So unless you want to nuke early, which you totally can if you want, but there's nothing that it's not necessary to nuke turn 8. Like, this was 80% defense forever, then yes, I would understand his skill. Let's go back to him. But it's not. So I don't really see a point in that secondary effect. The weakness strike, again, 80% is really high. It's only on 2 categories. Warrior's Mind and Otherworld Legend. Warrior's Mind is a very good team. Otherworld Legend is now, like the Raphael team and the New Year's team, which, if you put him as a support unit for Otherworld Legend or Warrior's Mind, it's actually really good. Alongside this skill, Vengeance stacks, and then permanent ult buff damage, up to 50%. So his showcases come out on both his normal team and Warrior's Mind. We saw that he took the Warrior's Mind team from 1.9 million to 2.9 million. He added a whole million damage, and that cannot be understated. The amount of raw support he gave that team. Even using, less units that are geared towards the actual Warrior's Mind team. Like, 1 million damage is not a small amount, and therefore we cannot be like, Veldora's trash. No, he's really good as a pure supporting unit, even if he doesn't really match up to the current team, because, yeah, this is limited to 2 categories. That's highly unfortunate. This permanent ult buff is also, well, it's generic, but Also, Lumi is generic, and she goes up to 80%, right? And you have to use less stacks of her for the same cost. But he's also adding Vengeance, which is passive damage. So that, that 2.9 million was actually going to be like 3 million because of the extra damage he would do after that turn was over if it had lived, which it didn't. But, I mean, if this was just straight up 80%, or even like, if this was like Shizu and it was 60% weakness strike for everybody, he'd be SS tier, probably. Like, if he had the Shizu skill of just weakness strike 60% for even one turn, I would move Veldora up into SS, and I would be very confident in putting him there. But because his first skill is limited, and his second effect on that skill is trash, and his second skill is really good, but also can be found otherwhere for free, technically, because Valentine is technically free, I'm going to put him alongside Shuna in A tier, is where they can work well in a situation where you want them to look good. But if you put them anywhere else, they don't look quite as good. Because putting Veldora on Nod and Otherworld Legend / Warriors Mind team, you're not gaining everything you can out of him. So I'd rather just bring a different unit that gave that specific team a better buff than just permanent alt damage, because then I'll just bring Valentine. Shuna, like, she can be a DPS. She's a magic team. She's buffing herself. She's rushing her alt. She's not good in her own meta, though, in my humble opinion, right? It's either a defensive meta or an offensive meta. And the fact that they kind of split that up this month is kind of weird, right? I get that, like, if you have Velzor and Raphael, it's literally all you need to clear the game. That's all you need. It's defense and they die. Here, it's like, you do a lot of damage while also having Vengeance tacked on. So is that better? You can still die with this team, because if you don't have Raphael, you're not tanking as well. You have high defensive stats, except for Veldora, who's attack growth. But at the same time, if you die, you die. And there's no coming back for that. You can't keep your damage out unless you bring Raphael. So, I think there's only like 2 things that are holding me back from putting Veldora at one thing, holding Veldora back from being triple S, like making this huge jump. But because Otherworld Legend and Warriors Mind are specific, and if you don't have those teams, he's just not doing it. You could definitely use him as a DPS unit, because he would give himself the weakness strike, right? Right? Technically, and he'd be buffing his own alt damage, so if you look at him in that light, yeah, he's a competent single target DPS unit. But his support is limited to 2 teams. Shuna is, her in herself kind of wonky, where she's kind of floating in between, like, defensive meta and offensive meta. She can work kind of both ways, but it's kind of funky. I don't know. I'm going to put them both in A tier for now. I just wish he was a little bit different. If his Vengeance skill would have been an orb change, like, if he didn't have any Vengeance at all, and he was the orange converter for the team, and he gave the permanent alt damage on his weakness strike or something like that, like, if you cut the weakness strike down, right, and that also stacked, like, the weakness strike and the alt damage stacked up to 50% total, but it was generic, and then you gave him the double orb change that we needed for the the Otherworld Legend team, he'd be here or here. Right? He'd probably be here. So, he's not a bad unit. He's just held back a little bit. Shuna is not a bad unit, per se. It's just that she's held back between being on a defense team when she's offensively focused. But with a team that, if you don't build it with offense, she's not really going to do that much damage. And even if you have Veldora and Shuna together alongside the defense, and you have them all together, it's like, you don't really have a lot of orb changers, and you have a bunch of Vengeance that you may or may not be able to use. You're not bringing any support units along, just except for Veldora for Shuna, and you're doing like 330,000 damage on her EX alt with all of this built up, and her stat swap and everything, and that's just not good enough as a pure damage unit. Right? Not when we're doing millions of damage. Not when an AoE on turn 5 is doing 1.5 million per hit. Like, no. No. You were just, in all respects, inferior to Milim in damage, right? As a damaging unit. But she's not meant to be a damaging unit. She's meant to be on a defense team because she has really high defensive stats. Okay, cool. Then make her defensive then. Okay, fine. That's kind of why I'm not really that big on Earth Murin, right? She's got the stat swap for the team. Cool beans. You have to go 10 turns until that Earth buff is like built up, and even then, you're still not doing a lot of damage with her. A tier for both of them is where I'm going to put them, and that's where we're going to live here. But I rambled a lot. That is the placement for this month. Rimuru has now surpassed everything else as godly, goes alongside the hero. We've renamed her tier. Yome is a top tier free-to-play unit. Albus is a really, really good free-to-play protector. Velzard is a very, very, very top tier protector, summonable. So let me know what you guys think of these placements. Sorry I ranted so much. This video could have been like half the time, but whatever. Meh. That's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.